10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All righty, everyone. Welcome to Women in Sports. I am Erin Sinnott. I am one of the hosts. I am joined today by Pepper Persley. She is the future of the WNBA media and a future women in sport, already making a huge impact. She is a 9-year-old journalist, host of The Dish with Pepper and She Got Next. Pepper, thank you so much for being with me today. This is so exciting.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. What a crazy night. You had a nap today. You were probably up super late. How excited are you? And kind of sad that the WNBA is over.
Yeah, I'm definitely sad because I really love doing this work. It was like whenever I needed some happiness, I go do this or I go do that with the WNBA. I watched all the games pretty much except if they were past my bedtime, except for last night, basically. But yeah, especially last night was really awesome to be in the championship press conference. It was a really great experience for me. But yeah, definitely a little happy and sad. Happy for the Seattle Storm, happy for the league for having a great year, but also kind of sad that I don't get to really cover them as much anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you feel like you were there last night in the press conference, or how do those kind of look like since they're so virtual now?
Yeah, it was on Zoom, of course. Most stuff is on Zoom now. So I just went in there and I raised my hand, and I always feel like I'm the first one raising my hand. I don't know if this is only me because I'm so used to doing it for school, but I raised my hand, and just to hear my name from the PR person there was really, really awesome. And to see the players' reactions, to hearing my voice is always makes me happy. So yeah, it was a really awesome experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Pepper, I have been following you, I feel like, since the WNBA started this season. And that was just my favorite part of watching videos. Just the second your voice pops on and they just smile, and it's just such a different pace. And they're always such good, insightful questions. I was like, she's the real deal. She is the real deal. So I definitely tuned in and was getting a lot of my WNBA coverage from you. So it was awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So the first kind of question I want to get into is just to learn more about you is what role does sports really play in your life, especially basketball? Do you play other sports besides basketball? What does that kind of look like?
So for your first question, I'd say yes. Basketball plays a big role in my life at this point. I'd say not only covering the game, but wanting to go play, and kind of that driving force, having basketball trophies and this and that, and just the little tiny things that connect me to basketball. But yeah, I'd say the biggest connection I can see from this point is the dream and the drive to want to be in the WNBA. And I feel like that does really drive me. And of course, my education comes first. But I say basketball is a pretty close second for me at this point. And do I play any other sports? Yes, I play soccer, and I do taekwondo as well. And aside from sports, other extracurricular activities, I play the violin, and of course I do this journalism work. But yeah, I do have to balance a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, you are doing it all. That's awesome. That's so exciting though, and I think it's super important. I think more and more we learn that athletes that do multiple sports and they have hobbies outside of their sport, they end up being really successful. So I think that's super exciting, and I encourage you to keep going. I always regret never playing an instrument. I was like, I don't know why I never did that, but that's awesome. So you kind of hit on it a little bit, but you do have goals to play in college, play professionally, yeah?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, what does that kind of look like from just with you being so young? Have you kind of started with rec leagues and things like that?
Yeah, I actually played my first basketball season this past winter. It was a rec league, and it was really just a good experience to like be able to be on there on the court with girls my age and to be able to have that experience in basketball. Because, I mean, even if everything is different in practice than a game, like you're not in a real situation, you can't really go and fix something right there. So it's really trying to learn from that. And I remember my dad always coming with a tripod. He was the coach of our team, and he would always come to record everything. And then when I got home and I was eating dinner, I watched the game, and he'd say, "This needs to be better. This was great, and this and that and that and this." So yeah, that was it. It was a really great experience to have my first basketball season. But yeah, I feel like wanting to be in the WNBA and watching those women. I feel like one of my first reactions to seeing them out there when I really understood what was going on is, wait, I can do that? Oh, I want to do that. And I already kind of had developed a love of basketball, but just watching them at the level that they play, doing what they do, it built my driving force up for basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of my next question is, has anybody given you advice? What players kind of from the WNBA or even college do you kind of like aspire to be like or look up to?
Yeah. Honestly, I can just say I look up to all of them, but specifically, my favorite WNBA player is Natasha Cloud. She really looks out for me. We are actually very similar. I have her jersey, and we're both biracial, and I love defense, and I know that's something she takes pride in as well. So there's always been that connection there, and she was really looking out for me when I was bullied. She sent me a video that really helped me when bullying was really challenging to get through. But I mean, I'd have to say for this season, because she wasn't there. I'm wearing her jersey today. I'd have to go with Alicia Clark because also biracial. I feel that connection. Also loves defense. There's that connection. But yeah, just the level of intensity she has and her well-roundedness, and something I aspire to get better at. Well, not aspire. It's something that I need to get better at is my left hand, and she's pretty much ambidextrous at this point. So those are two people I pride myself after. But my dad always wants me also to look up to Jewel Lloyd's shot because it's just pure and beautiful. And so that's someone so those are some people I hope to be compared to. But yeah, pretty much everybody in the WNBA, honestly. They each have, I feel like, a little bit of their game that I can take to create my, like, Pepper basketball.
Absolutely, Pepper basketball, 100%. I remember Jewel Lloyd, she played for a club that was similar in my area. We were both from the Chicago area, and I just remember watching her play at tournaments, and I was like, this is crazy. She's going to Notre Dame. And now just being able to watch her take off and as well as just some other friends that I had growing up, the fact that we got the opportunity to play in college, and then they're now getting the opportunity to be in the WNBA and to have the exposure and things like that. It's super exciting. So yeah, make it your own. I'm excited to watch some Pepper basketball. I love that. But yeah, so just to kind of talk about like your platform and your brand, essentially, you're starting at such a young age, which is so awesome. I wish more people did it, and especially young girls were just encouraged so much. But how were you able to really create and grow, a Dish with Pepper, and how were you able to become like partners with She Got Next?
I mean, first of all, I feel like just the emotions that I felt I wanted to highlight important people's voices. And it really started in quarantine, and that piece of quarantine being really challenging. And I honestly just wanted to bring a smile to people's faces. I didn't know what that would be at the time, and the fact that it has reached this point and my platform has gotten to this point is really awesome. To like look back, and that was what I really wanted to do. Really wanted to do in the first place. But in terms of like growing my brand, I mean, I guess I just kept getting connections to people who had bigger platforms, who continued to make my platform bigger, and that's honestly what I wanted to do, was to try to highlight them. But I feel like that's how it happened. And then when I started to do press conferences for the WNBA, that grew my brand as well. And then for She Got Next, with the Next, I feel like all credit to Howard Megdal to reaching out to me, because I mean, I wasn't honestly thinking of actually having jobs. That wasn't something that was on my mind at the point, except for eventually playing in the WNBA. So making that a reality for me, right now, was really awesome, and is really awesome. Yeah, but She Got Next is my podcast that I do through the Next, and I feel like they're pretty similar, just trying to highlight, specifically for She Got Next, the WNBA players' voices and people and journalists in basketball. And then for Dish with Pepper, just trying to highlight amazing people's voices. And I've had a variety of people on that show. But yeah.
That's awesome. And then did you have any idea it would kind of take off? I know you said like you weren't thinking about having a job, which I don't think any 9-year-old does, but the fact that it has happened for you is awesome. But yeah, did you know that, you're researching and interviewing and then getting interviewed by people like Debbie Antonelli and even being on GMA? Like, did you have any idea that was going to happen? And how did you really like handle that when it was there and happening?
Well, shout out to Jasmine Baker. She's, I would say, one of the real reasons that I took off, because of her article and her interview of me. That was the first interview anybody did of me, and I was kind of taken aback. I was like, wait, so she wants me to interview her? And my dad said, no. She wants to interview you. And at that point, I was very in awe of that, and the kind of the difference I guess I was making. But that was one of the reasons. I give her credit to how I built my brand and how I built my platform. But I feel like there's another part of your question that I am forgetting. Is there anything I'm missing?
No, it was basically just like all of a sudden you were being interviewed by Debbie Antonelli, and then you were on GMA at such a young age and things like that. But just kind of how you handled it. Obviously, you just kind of rolled with it and you had so much fun with it, and you really used it to excel and to kind of really be where you are right now.
Yeah, to the point of GMA, that wasn't actually as related to basketball, but for GMA, I feel like I was just learned at that point that I was not starstruck, and I do get starstruck, but I don't have as much of stage fright, and I just went out there. I was like, you know what? I don't care that there are probably 2 million people watching this right now. I'm here with the person I'm talking to, and the person I'm talking to is answering me. And it was kind of like I wasn't as worried. Like I cared about my family at home watching. I cared about my friends, and I wasn't really worried about what other people had in mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then kind of like now focusing on the WNBA this past season and things like that. Your first interview was like 3 years ago, right? When you were 6, I believe.
Yeah.
So how did that kind of happen? It was like New York Liberty. What was the process then of starting to interview these players and members of the WNBA, and then becoming a actual member of the media?
I don't know if I've told anybody this before, but when I was doing my first ever interview of Sugar Rogers, and I was thinking in my head, wow, she's really awesome. Like, why aren't people watching more games? And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with, I was going through the public library, and I was like, there are no books on the WNBA. And so I wrote my own, and just trying to do everything in my platform to try to highlight their voices, because what they're doing is really important. But yeah, that first interview really, like, it dawned on me, whoa, these people, like, these players are really awesome, and I want to try to highlight them. And the next year, I did a series of interviews. Yeah, that was that year. I did a series of interviews to try to promote the league. And I feel like from that point on, that was really always my driving force. And of course, being smiling on people's faces and trying to share their message and share my love of basketball. But it really comes down to, like, the effect that they had on me and trying to do something to pay that back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. awesome, Pepper. I'm just so encouraged by you. But yeah, so what has been your favorite memory so far working as a journalist and interviewing members of the WNBA?
I have to say I have a lot of those at this point, and I feel very lucky to have so many of those. I feel, but you're the first person to get this answer since it was last night. I have to say, being in that finals press conference and just being even being there, let alone being called on, asking my question, and being able to put that up on my site, it was really just an amazing moment. And I think I was extra excited at that point because I was also really tired. And so I kind of wished it had gone to Game 5 because then it would have been on Sunday, and it probably would have made me a little tiny bit healthier in terms of rest. But I think that it was just really amazing to be in that space, like hearing the voices of so many people I look up to in so many media press conferences and media calls is really awesome and a really great experience for me.
Yeah, even just watching the videos of the girls celebrating, and although there were no fans, I think it was just so much richer that people in the media, people like you, and just got to get those kind of first reactions. And I think too, it was super awesome for the players to just genuinely be able to enjoy and celebrate within themselves, and things like that. So yeah, that's so awesome that you got to experience that and be a part of it for sure. But then kind of too, looking back, like now that the season has concluded, what has this season meant to you? Not just playing, but with the players' social justice movements and the narrative that they are constantly pushing of equality and things like that. What has that really meant to you?
Yeah, it's meant a lot, and by a lot I mean like a lot. But just I think that for so many of those players, I feel like a mini WNBA player at this point because of just what I believe in and my dreams and my goals and my love of basketball. But more than that, just of course the love of basketball, but also in terms of the social justice and what they're doing. I mean, last night, I wasn't able to hear it last night, but my dad showed me this morning a video of AC talking about how, Alicia Clark, talking about how this championship was for all the black women and all the black girls who were unheard and forgotten. And I feel like that meant a lot, and just a continued message of trying to say her name for Breonna Taylor and all the other names, Sandra Bland and all the other names that we don't know. It's really inspiring and it's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Pepper, I really hope you feel just so empowered. I know I do as a woman. But especially just being able to watch the WNBA kind of lead the way in a lot of this and things like that. What have you learned exactly about fighting social injustice and voting and things like that?
Well, I can tell you this much, that when I have the chance to, I will vote. That I have definitely learned. And I think I've asked my parents about 7 times at this point if they're registered to vote. And I can assure you they are.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but in terms of voting, yeah, I know that it's very important. And I've actually been talking about the election in my school, which goes hand in hand with what WNBA is teaching me. And so now I have more of that background information. But in terms of social justice, I mean, it's important and it needs to be covered and it needs to be something that people are talking about. And I feel like to be a part and to be able to cover the people who are starting that conversation is really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've even talked to just some of my former teammates and coaches and how important it is for them to be registered to vote. That was never something I feel like that was ever talked about when I was a player and when I was in school, especially like during that pivotal time of like being on your own and forming your own opinions. And I just have been so encouraged by people that have been covering the WNBA, what the WNBA is doing, just all of the conversations and things like make me feel very confident and okay to have an opinion and to talk about these extremely important things. So I'm so glad that you are just a part of it and getting to have those conversations out with your classmates and people around you and holding your parents accountable. That's super important. But yeah,
it's honestly not holding them accountable. It's just like at this point because they've already registered and like,
oh yeah,
so like gone through. Okay, look, I'm registered. And I was like, okay, good. So it's not even holding them accountable.
Yes, but that's absolutely so important. And it's awesome that your parents have let you become educated and have given you the ability to have those conversations. So that's super awesome. Yeah, seriously. But yeah, so then also just like for women in media, women in WNBA media, just in general, have you been able to get advice? Do the people in the media Zoom talk kind of, behind the scenes? What has been some just great advice that you've gotten?
Well, I've gotten a lot of advice from women in sports covering especially the WNBA, with like so many Black women covering the WNBA. Like, I'm this is like a question where I'm in awe just thinking about all the advice that I've gotten. But yeah, the biggest thing is just that so many people are going to tell you that you shouldn't be in this space, or even that you shouldn't be covering the WNBA. The WNBA doesn't matter. And of course, I know at this point that that's absolutely untrue. And just that if you continue to spread your message, the people who will listen are going to be the people you want to surround yourself with. And at that point, hearing advice like that, I'm like, well, I'm surrounding myself with people like you. So I think I'm doing a good job of that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think that's great. And I hope you feel constantly encouraged because it shouldn't matter, as long as you're covering things that you're passionate about, and it obviously is fueling you to go to great places. So yeah, but just to kind of pivot and kind of just look at Pepper post WNBA season, you're gonna maybe have some more time on your hands. I don't know though. You'll probably get into something else super soon. But yeah, you do so much for women in sports. But what are you most passionate about when you aren't being a journalist or researching for your next interview or watching the WNBA?
Does playing basketball count in this answer? I feel like that goes hand in hand. Except doesn't count.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. 100%.
Okay, yeah, then I'd have to say playing basketball. But I know it technically doesn't count because I have to do it, but I also really love school and I love learning. And all my other hobbies and playing the violin and doing taekwondo. Yeah, I feel like all of that stuff I love. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just also too, you kind of spoke about it earlier. You have really began to dive into anti-bullying work. I think it's something that's extremely important, especially when it comes to media and cyberbullying. So many people today, like that I might not have necessarily had to go through when I was your age, because phones and all of that weren't super, they were getting there, but they weren't there yet. Can you just kind of talk about the things that you're doing and share with us just how you're fighting bullying and things like that with your friends and at school and online?
Yeah, I feel like you make a great point about cyberbullying. And at the point where I was bullied, it was in school, and most of the second graders didn't have phones, so it was less of that and more of just more of just mean-spirited things that people were telling me. And I created an anti-bullying video, which featured, of course, WNBA players. So, I mean, just being able to have that like in my mind and to my reaction and to be that. But also I remember this goes to show how much basketball does. But I don't remember if it was to or from a basketball practice, but I was like, Daddy, when I'm bullied, I feel really bad, and I don't want people to feel that way. And so it's kind of from then on, well, what can I do to make sure people don't feel that way? And I feel like what I knew I was good at was asking questions, and being able to share those answers. And so I put together an anti-bullying video. And at my old school, because of COVID, I wasn't actually able to share it. But at my new school, I'm working on making sure I'm able to share it with all 3 sections.
Yeah, that's awesome. What really has made that, like, your friends and things like that, especially now, not necessarily being in school, and now you're gonna go back to school next week, you told me a little earlier. What are you most excited about being in the classroom and being surrounded by your peers?
Well, I feel like I said this to my parents. I forget how much I love sitting at a desk with all my workbooks in one place and not having to go up and find, oh, where did I leave my math book? Oh, I was doing homework in my room. I got to go find that now. So I feel like I feel like we took a lot for granted, and now in COVID-19, we're seeing that, like, I took for granted hugging my friends and the rest of my family. At least I still have 2 people to hug. But I feel like just being back in the classroom environment changes the mindset a little bit, and knowing that I need to be on my best behavior and I need to be always doing the right thing in the classroom environment. It's very much it's very much harder to do that when there's no parent around, or like nobody who can hear what's going on in the classroom. And not that anything bad is going on, just that making sure that if it does, I know what to do. But also just being back with my classmates, well, at least most of them in school, I feel like it's going to be very fun to be able to see them in person again. Is really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I hope it's gonna be fun. I hope it's gonna be safe. I know a lot of kids are starting to go back to school, and I also love school too, and am finishing my master's. And it's just been also very hard, especially just not being in a classroom with my teachers and stuff like that. So yeah, my heart goes out to you for sure, and I'm super excited for the kids that are going back. So yeah, but just kind of future thinking and reflection and things like that, what really kind of continues to push and inspire you to keep going through this journey, not only as a journalist, but just as a woman in this country and in the sports industry?
Well, what pushes me to keep going, I feel, is honestly just knowing that there might be another little biracial girl looks who looks at the WNBA and thinks, "Oh, I want to be there," and doesn't know that she can do something like that. And then she sees me and she realizes that she has that lane of opportunity. I feel like that's always like in the back of my mind, that there's gonna be another little Pepper. I don't want to say another little Pepper because like nobody's gonna be like me and they're not gonna be like me, but I feel like there's going to be another little biracial girl who looks up to the players in the WNBA and doesn't know that she can do something like this. And then, like I said, she sees me, and then like she thinks that it's possible, and then there's this whole lane of opportunity for her. And it's like there was a light bulb pointing this way, and it's really far, and that it just came closer to her, and now she can kind of go with it.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. That is super important. And I think this generation is just going to change that. Girls like you are going to change that. The WNBA is so thankful to have you for sure. What mark do you really want to leave on the people that you interview and just in general people that you encounter every day?
Well, just that you can do anything. And I feel like people wouldn't expect to see me here doing this and to even see the WNBA players doing what they're doing. But there's always, I feel like at this point in our world's history in 2020, there are a lot of different places and different things where different people are doing everything. And I feel like at that point, I feel very lucky to have people I can look up to. But I also hope that soon enough people will be able to look up to me, and that But my message would be just to believe in yourself, like especially if you're different and not the classic person you people think you should be, which I feel like is most people at this point. That you got to believe in yourself and you can do anything you put your mind to, but make sure it's for the right cause and you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. Pepper, last kind of question before we finish things off, but what is next after WNBA finals are for you? Obviously they were over last night. You still have some work that you're going to do? Are you still trying to interview some people? What does that really look like now moving forward?
Yeah, I'm definitely still hoping to highlight the WNBA players' voices because, of course, that's really important to me. But also maybe branching out to doing some women's college ball this season and maybe the NBA next season and maybe even enter sports. But I definitely love basketball and I know a little bit more about that sport. So, yeah, I'd say just trying to branch out to different types of basketball. But other than that, definitely I still have the dream of being in the WNBA at some point, but hope finishing my education and continuing to do all the things that I love in extracurricular activities.
Awesome. Well, Pepper, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much. You are absolutely incredible. I hope you know that people look up to you as much as you probably look up to them. So just keep going. And you are just so inspiring. It's awesome. I just wish every little girl was able to see you and to keep going and things like that. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for saying that, honestly, and for doing the work that you're doing with women in sports and for doing this interview.
Yes, absolutely. And then just a couple end of the show announcements, I guess. Wow, I felt like a teacher there for a second. Rising Coaches, this is a Rising Coaches sponsored podcast and show. We are celebrating women's basketball today. It is the third day of the Rising Coaches Conference. If you guys want more information on it, go over to www.risingcoaches.com. We have some incredible speakers. UCLA's head coach Corey Close. We have Michelle Clark Hurd. We have Jackie Carson and so many more speaking tonight. So yeah, any information, head on over to risingcoaches.com.
Wow.
All right.
Awesome guests.
Yes, yeah. Such great guests. We're super excited.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you so much, Pepper.
No problem. Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Bye.